welcome back to Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. We're your hosts. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Sean.
And we are glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. In this podcast, we talk about real sales issues, big and small, for salespeople, selling situations, and sales leadership. Collectively, we have over 50 years of sales, selling leadership, and sales acumen under our belts, and we're here to share a little bit of that with you in the next 15 minutes. We're glad you're here. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to our podcast, Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. Today, we have a special guest with us, another tall person. And Jim, I think you're over 6 feet, so I think you qualify as a tall person. Jim Hardwick is the Chief Community Officer for Sales Xceleration. But in addition to that, he is also a fractional VP of Sales. It's just like Kevin and I, processes the same kind of work that we do and tries to help his clients become better. Jim, I'm not going to do a great job of explaining who you are. Can you do me a favor and do a little bit of an overview of who you are, where you came from, and what your background is?
Thanks, Sean and Kevin. It's great to be on your podcast. My name's Jim Hardwick. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I did grow up in Indiana, actually Speedway, which is right close to the Indianapolis 500-mile racetrack. And so then I moved out because I got tired of winters. And I was in healthcare for 36 years, climbed the corporate ladder, had a lot of responsibility. And finally, I decided to make the best decision of my life, become a fractional outsourced VP of sales. And I've had the most fun I've ever had the last few years I've been doing this.
Fantastic. Jim, really glad you're here. Really wish that we in Ohio had some of that Arizona weather. That'd be a blessing this time of year when it's still really cold. But I'm really curious today. I want to kind of dig into a cultural kind of topic with you and talk about how to build better sales organizations from a people perspective. I know you've got some great stories, but I want to tee you up by asking you, what is the best people-centric story that you can give to the sales leaders who might be listening in?
Thank you. Everything I do and the way I live my life today is about serving. As I said, I was in healthcare in 36 years in corporate America. And so much of that is about taking. It's about winning at all costs. And because of that, you start going through a lot of stress issues, a lot of frustrations. About 10 years ago, I read a book written by Bob Buford called Halftime. It's what you do in the second half of your life. And by the way, I'm a 62-year-old bald guy. You can't see that on the podcast, but there's your visualization. I started looking for how do I create that life of significance, the second half of my life. And I was looking, and my wife and I have always served and given back in the community. I found it in the least places you could expect. We went on a safari in Kenya in 2018. It was one of those safaris where it wasn't even our bucket list, but we decided, let's go on safari. Our friends talked us into it, which sounds obnoxious, but our friends talked us into it because we really didn't want to go. We thought it'd be a one and done. We'd take some pictures and go home. We fell in love with these people. It stole our hearts. Because of this experience, we started a dental clinic. And the reason dental clinic is my wife is a dental hygienist. After we went there, I'd asked one of our guides if they ever bring a dental team through that area. He says no. And they don't really have access to dental care. And he did say, I have a cavity. And he pointed up to one of his molars. And God, the earth, the world spoke to me and says, I'm bringing a dental team back. In 10 months, we took a team of 8 people. And we set up in a tent and we saw 191 patients. We just got back this month from our third trip to Kenya. And this time we saw 314 patients and did 1,078 procedures and extracted 197 teeth. No, I don't make a necklace out of the teeth. We throw them away. But I had found my passion for serving. I now take that and I use that anytime I'm dealing with a client, anytime I'm dealing with anybody in my community. How can I serve them? I don't have those stresses anymore like corporate America because I know I'm making a difference. When you start serving your clients, when you start serving your employees, that resonates. Your clients see a differentiator in you. I'm buying from this person, but man, I feel like he's serving me. And that is so impactful that when you flip it, I will often say, if it's networking, if it's on a Zoom call, I will very often tell the person on the other end, if you have a sales question or you know anybody that has a sales question, give me a call. I'd love to give free advice. And they go, what? I said, yeah, I'd love to give free advice because if I can help you be successful, then the boat rises for everybody. And someday you might need me. Someday you might not. But it's not about checks and balances and checks and balances. And that's why I never worry about where my next client's going to come from, what I'm going to do, because the business, it's amazing how it comes to you when you start giving back. As a business owner or a sales leader, or if you're a business owner listening to this, when's the last time you found a client for your customer? You talk about making an impact. It's about networking. It's about referrals. And you've got a customer that's a long-term customer, and you find somebody that needs our services and you recommend them or recommend more than one. You have differentiated and you got a customer for life. You're going to set yourself apart from 99% of the people in the marketplace. A lot of times in today's world, we can't even get people to call us back, let alone taking that extra step to actually go and refer a client and for them to get the business. That's what differentiates you. And that's what really will make an impact in your business when you create that heart for service.
That's really powerful. I can't echo that enough. I've heard it said another way: give freely, give without keeping score, because it's a business builder. It's a community builder. It's the legacy creation tool that we all have as small business owners and sales leaders working with small businesses. Great call out there.
I agree. I think that this is very valuable. You didn't learn this as a young buck salesperson 20, 30 years ago when you were first starting out. When did the idea that you needed to give to others in order for them to be successful, in order for you to be successful, how did that transition come about in your career? And I know you mentioned a book that you read, but did it happen before that? Did it happen as a salesperson? Did it happen as a sales leader? Give me some background on that.
Nobody's ever asked that question. I love that question because now I have to reflect on my life. Sean and Kevin, I and my wife have always been of service, and we've always donated freely. We've always supported organizations. We've helped an organization, been involved with the church, and all kinds of different things. I would say it hasn't been till the last 3 years of my life that I've absolutely flipped everything. We've all heard about servant leadership. That's not new. There's so many books. Google servant leadership or YouTube servant leadership. You're going to see 5,000 presentations on servant leadership. The difference, I think, with me is as I've gotten older, and I wish I would have done this when I was younger, is I've become intentional on my service. Now that I see the impact that we make when we give in Kenya, I give to my clients, I give to my community, I give to my referral partners. I'm having the most fun I've ever had in my life. I have flipped the paradigm on taking and winning. When I was in corporate America, I was either selling up, managing down, or dealing with crazy customers that were about ready to throw us out the door. And I was dealing with hospital, mostly med surg, and I was running the West Coast. You talk about the village was on fire 24/7. And you learn to live in that environment. And you're not necessarily intentional about how am I going to serve my customers. I'm just trying to survive the day, for heaven's sakes. Now, everything I do is about the intention of serving, the intention of how can I make a difference.
That's really interesting. I think if we took out the label of corporate or the geography, I think we could probably say that a lot of the people that we come to work with as outsourced VPs of sales are exactly described that way. Hair's on fire, just trying to survive, or survival mode, really just need somebody to throw them a lifeline to get them to the next plane. Can you kind of correlate that to how you lead as a servant leader and then what kind of impact that has on the business? Because I'm looking at through the lens of experience here in England. There's probably a lot of examples of how implementing a culture of service drives a business forward.
Going in to do my outsourced VP of sales, it's understanding, and I encourage a lot of small business owners who are working tirelessly to be successful. The backbone of this country is small business owners, believe it or not. All we hear about the big conglomerates, but the backbone is the small business owner. And these people are passionate, they work hard, they're burnt out, and they struggle. And to go in and talk about how you serve your clients and how you serve your employees, how you recognize your employees. Are you intentional about that? Do you know what your goals and dreams and your aspirations of your employees are? And then how do you help them reach those goals and dreams? Trust me, they're not working at the pest control company or at the engineering company. That's not their main focus. That's their way to make a living, to reach their goals and aspirations. Their goals and aspirations could be, I want to take my family to Disneyland. I want to put my kids through college. I want to buy a house. Well, what are you doing as a business owner or a leader to help them achieve those goals? How are you serving them in those aspects to be willing to listen what those goals are instead of just worrying about, do they come on time, and worry about all the things that we worry about in business, which takes care of itself anyway. You're going to be an employee. But when you flip that and now you start taking an interest in the employee, and then they start really want to be a part of that organization, guess what? Your organization grows. Your clients grow. They feel it because this person is empowered and feels comfortable working for you, maybe for the first time because you've taken interest in them. How many CEOs have we seen, or presidents? They walk in the room and they control the room, and it's all about them. It's not. It's about serving your employees, serving your clients. And when you make that impact, you got employees for life, and they will be there because they believe and they've shown that you care. I wrote a program recently, and one of the things is, how big is your willingness to listen? How many times have we seen a leader go to an employee and say, hey, Kevin, you've been worked here for a year. What do you think about the company, and how's your experience here? I'm loving working here. But you know what? If we could just tweak a couple things, we could change this. And the leader looks at Kevin and says, Kevin, you're all wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Are you kidding me, Kevin? Kevin, I knew you'd be like this. Instead of listening to what Kevin says, because he's the one in the field, he's the one in the trenches, you listen to what your employees say. You listen, you receive that feedback, your willingness to listen. How big is your willingness to listen? All of a sudden, you might need to change some things. You don't know everything as a leader. That's when it becomes powerful. That's when it comes to be serving. People go to me and say, Jim, I get the whole serving thing. I can't go to Africa. I can't do that kind of work. And I say, you've missed the point of what serving is. Serving is having an ear, listening. Serving is bringing the garbage cans in for your elderly neighbor when it's raining or there's 4 feet of snow. Serving is having that tug in your heart to help somebody in need that you see on the street. And you got to be very careful about that in today's world. But sometimes you just see something and you think, that person needs my help. Maybe you give it to them monetarily. Maybe you get up and just talk to them, lend them your ear, shake their hand, smile at them. As simple that sounds, that's what serving's all about. And it's not pie in the sky, because here's my selfish part. When you give, when you serve, guess what? It comes back to you tenfold. That's what people not always realize. I challenge anybody on this podcast to try it. If you haven't, be intentional and try it. If you're driving down the road today and somebody comes in your mind that you haven't talked to in a year, 6 months, pick up the phone and call. There's a reason why they came into your mind. There's a reason why they're in your heart. They need to talk to you. There's something special.
They do. And wow, this 15 minutes has flown by. You wouldn't know it, but we have been talking for 15 minutes. And Jim, this has been wonderful. Just hearing your perspective about how to create positive culture and the power of that culture on change. Some of my biggest takeaways are give freely without keeping score, and changing the mentality of taking versus giving, not to mention being from Indiana, just close to Ohio. We'll call you family. You're East Coast family. Jim, thanks so much for being on today. But before we go, let's tell the audience, where can they get in touch if they've got follow-on questions?
My email is jhardwick@salesxceleration.com. That's acceleration with an X. We try to make it as difficult as we can. I will give you my phone number, because if somebody wants to talk, call me 623-451-1080. Love to talk to you about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim, for being on. We really do appreciate it. I will also put that contact information in the show notes so people can go to the show notes and take a look at this. Thank you very much. We do appreciate you being on.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much for joining us on this podcast of Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. We hope that we were able to share some valuable insight, valuable knowledge with you to make your selling adventures easier and more successful. Please join us every week. We drop these on Tuesday afternoon at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Please subscribe to us in your favorite podcast player. Also, please join us on LinkedIn, where we do a CEO workshop. And that CEO workshop is dedicated monthly to big questions that CEOs are having and how to grow their business and drive sales. You can find us on LinkedIn. Just search for Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. Thank you very much. Have a great day.